70, which is more than 75%.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start our Planning and Community Development Committee meeting. Can please get a motion to approve the committee meetings of our last meeting? Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. All those in favor? Aye. Ed, I guess you're on first.
Good morning. Friday morning, and here we are. So what we want to do today is I'm going to because my friend Wayne is coming up, and I know you've got short time and a long day, so we're going to deal with some budgetary issues this morning on my presentation for this. So I wanted to start and talk about the EDC Warren County budget update at this particular time. And what we wanted to kind of do is to talk about and review as of the net assets of December 31st. You can see up there between the unrestricted and the unrestricted is a total of 1.248. 185 is the total at that point. Now, not to get into a long accounting, I'm not an accountant, but as you know, there are different accounting regulations for municipal governments and not-for-profits. And under not-for-profit guidance, there are only two categories going forward. That is donor with restrictions and without restrictions. So a donor, Doug Beatty, could voluntarily give any not-for-profit X number of dollars with restrictions, saying it can only be used for capital course. Or he could give a general donation, in which it would go into the other pot of money, a contract and so forth. And whereas with municipal government, there's a total of 5 different categories, and you've seen that all in your budgets, and as town supervisors, you know that very well, in terms of capital and tax stabilization and accounts like that. So at this particular time, when we go forward, we're talking unrestricted and unrestricted with board designation. Even board designations is a voluntary designation by the board. Under accounting principles, the board cannot do what a government can do and designate that as a specific account that can't be invaded. It's a voluntary basis that could be renewed on a regular basis. So the not-for-profit organizations have that, some for flexibility, but also it's basically what the EDC and the board, as a good faith going forward with board restrictions, would honor those board designations going forward. So I wanted to just spend a moment to go over the net history of EDC from the net assets perspective. You can see 2015, 2016, and then 2016 when it jumped up. And if you come down in the first left-hand column, you can see the change in the net assets of net income in 2015 was $51,000. The big influx into the EDC was non-operating from the merger of the Hudson River Local Development Corporation into EDC. That caused an increase of $363,182 into the bottom line of total net assets. So you can see at the beginning, pre-merger at 648, and it went up to 1,062,000, based on essentially the increase of the inflection of the net asset of $363,000. So at that particular point in 2015, and it's carried through 2017, these are the board designations that we had briefly talked about at our last meeting. Okay. There we go.
One more.
One more?
Yep. Nope. Nope.
Right there. Right.
The one before that. There you go.
Okay. Sorry about it. Punch it once and it goes forward. Trying to be as transparent as we can, Doug, with this. It keeps moving forward real quick with these slides here.
You know, can I follow along with the hard
Sure,
copy?
yeah, we'll pass these on. Good idea. Pass
I got a
those
good
on.
memory, but I can't remember all.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
Okay, just,
Thank you.
okay, we can pass these out to...
Thank you, man.
Would you like one more?
Okay.
Sure. Follow and...
They'll email it to me.
We have another...
Yes,
couple
yeah, we
down
do.
here?
Oh, we got
Sorry, I couldn't take it with the attorney.
Everybody has one up there. Who needs one? Yeah.
You need him, Mark?
Anybody else need one? I got one more. Okay, so thank you, Jeff. For designations, our operating reserve, which under guidelines suggested by not-for-profit organizations, which LDC is incorporated in the mid-90s, is between 3 to 6 months. Our operating reserve, based on 1/12 of our budget each month, is equivalent of $240,000, is estimated at a 4-month operating reserve of $240,000. Property carrying cost is for taxes, insurance, and maintenance. The Queensbury project is where a portion of the Hudson River Local Development Corporation, when that money came in, this fund was designated up with approximately $137,000 into that account. And then the regional loan fund, which is required from the state, is a reserve of $50,000. The definitions and a little bit discussions on those is carried here below. And moving to the next slide, the plan for EDC going forward for the board designated and non-designated assets, which is on page 6, is as follows: that we propose for this coming year in 2019 that we are the carrying cost of the parcels owned by EDC is a cost including taxes and insurance is approximately an estimated at $30,000 a year. So that will be coming out of the property carrying cost beginning in 2019. The Queensbury Business Park plan is, for a 3-year plan, is to release from the designated the balance of the $137,000 for the purchase of the remaining lots in the Queensbury Business Park and any additional site preparation costs that may occur. The capital expenditures that will be undertaken from the reserve, the net assets, will be an expenditure of up to $30,500 to do the website update. And also, they have come up with some excellent software tracking package for loans and related hardware. The website has not been updated in the last 4 years, and it's generally recommended you try to do that as often as you can, but it is quite expensive to do that, so that this is going to be undertaken perhaps earlier than 2018 in the last few months. It will take approximately 6 to 8 weeks for the new website. So currently, right now, when we are preparing information to go out on our website, and we want to then put that over on other social media outlets as Instagram and Twitter and things like that, we have to go back in currently and retype that in, re-edit that in text, because they're under different formats, font sizes, index indices, and so forth. So under this app that would come with the website update will be the ability to put it on once, and that will be carried over to all of the other social medias in order to get the information out. So it's another way of attempting to communicate on a regular basis. Normally it takes 2 to 3 hours in order to format these things right and get out, particularly if you've got some pictures, and edit that. So this app will make it very much. Also, as part of that update, that will be working with the vendor Atlas and their subsidiary is that the information and demographics will now be updated automatically going forward, so that you can currently go on our EDC website and indicate that you would like to have demographics within the town of Chester, and you'd like to see what the demographics are, the marketing within a 5, 10, 15, 20 miles area or larger. And that will then come back with the demographics availability. This can be used locally, but it's also very importantly used by site location people. So we've talked about the old way of doing and selecting new locations was a company person would be nominated by the president to check out other sites in the area. He may call the local economic development corporation, he may write, he may fax, or he might call the state of New York. What they do now is companies that are looking to expand or relocate, they hire a third-party consultant that then will undertake his own research by going into those areas. Generally, the company may say, we want to be located in the Northeast. Well, northeast of what? The Northeast is New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, essentially. So this consultant then will get on and check all of the economic development websites in the area and come up with the demographics to do his first cut. Secondly, they normally will call now the state economic development team and ask for additional information, any state incentives that they're aware of. They may check with some federal agencies to see what state incentives may be available. And then eventually, once they look at all of that, sit down with the corporate people, will then come in and say, well, maybe at this point we'll start talking with some local people in the area. But so they do all of this homework in advance, and it's helpful to have updated demographic information available to the site locators at the initial step, so that they're aware of the region that they're looking at, obviously for our Warren County area. So that's why the importance of the website update, as well as the additional software material is important to undertake. And the final portion of the operating expenses not covered by operating revenues for 2019 will be $44,500. So that's a overview of what part of our plan will be. So over the next 3 years, in summary, 167,000 of the board-designated assets will be released. $74,500 of the non-designated assets used for capital purchases and operating expenses. And so the net of this is that the cash equivalent will decrease by $212,025. Those are all from the net assets. So from our perspective, looking forward for the EDC's request to the county for 2019 is a request of $300,000, which is a reduction from $349,000. The reason why your budget this past year was high is because 2 grants that were coming in are not going to be completed. One will be completed this year, and that is the Pathway Corridor, and the other was for our Economic Opportunity Zone. So that the normal average for the last few years has been around the $349,000 level. So we are asking for $300,000 this year, along with, we're not asking for a request from the general fund of Warren County of $50,000, so that we are looking nearly at $99,000 less in a request to Warren County for the 2019 budget. And again, our area of focus. Yes.
I just want to make sure. So if you go back to page 7.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to decrease approximately $212,000 from the cash. So that's from the total net assets. So basically, the total net net assets next year then will be approximately $1,035,000.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is
No,
correct.
that's not accurate, because
No,
we're,
it's
because the cash,
Oh,
all of it
cash
is in
flow,
cash.
yeah.
So we're purchasing property,
Right.
so that's an asset, so the net assets will still remain, will
Okay.
still be increased. And the board designated, we're moving it from a board designation up to totally unrestricted. That's all that's happening with that. I guess what we wanted to show
Well,
you...
we're spending the money, though.
We're spending the money, but you're spending the money on assets. So when you're spending money on assets, you're getting something. It's not, it's
So the $1
it's
million
tangible
is
assets.
actually a little more than that.
It should probably, it might decrease by about $75,000, the net assets overall. And that doesn't take into consideration what might happen in 2019 as far as our income and losses.
So an educated estimate would be around $1 million total.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I don't want you to think that that whole $212,000, because again, that $212,000 was to show you we're utilizing cash for some of these purchases. Some of them are capital purchases. It becomes an asset. It still remains on the balance sheet as an asset. It's not,
From a
it's
cash
not
flow
expended.
point of view.
Exactly. From a cash flow point of view, we wanted to illustrate that we were spending $212,000 of the $854 that we had on hand.
That's the
that was
distinction
the
again
purpose
between
of that.
not-for-profits and, municipal. So you have to go through the exercise of a net asset, and then it's the cash. But, we're not buying this, without money, without cash. I just want to again, as part of our request and as part of our overall 2019 approach, is that the key issue that going forward, and you see that every day as you drive through the communities now, signs that are homemade or very nice-looking signs that there's a job fair today. Whether it is a Stewart's, whether it is a hardware store, whether it is Glens Falls National Bank, whether it is C.R. Bard, whether it is Angiodynamics, there is, at this point, 3.5% unemployment in Warren, Washington, and northern Saratoga County. Now, we suspect that some of that, because we're a tourist area, will jump back up a little bit. We are still in the need, though, of workers for the area. And the issue is that current people that are attempting to replace employees that are retiring, they're having a very difficult time finding replacements. At your upper higher management area, it takes longer, but they can get those people. But the average online person, Angiodynamics and C.R. Bard right now, are having extremely difficult time in bringing people in. You might see in the local paper $500 bonus signing for Angiodynamics, as well as a week vacation right off the bat. C.R. Bard had a job fair at SUNY. They're going to have another one coming up in October. Out of that job fair that was attended maybe by 20 people in the region, only 5 were qualified out of that entire group. So this is a concern from businesses that are currently in operation here. And it's also a concern because in one discussion with one company who we are working with in an effort to expand, they are reluctant to do so because there cannot be assurances now of a local. And this is just not happening in Warren County. It's happening throughout our area. So the plus, it's great at the unemployment rate at 3.5, but it is creating some problems. And then you go to organizations like Stewart's Ice Cream and others, and the same thing. There's the job fair after job fair. With the low unemployment, it is very difficult. So the next step is then to look into the capital region, and with some of our companies, their pay rate will not be as high as the capital region, and therefore how can you entice that individual to move or travel daily up to Northway to Glens Falls at our wage rates, which is a little bit lower. So that is not working. In larger metropolitan areas, they're actually, as an example, in Port Jefferson in Long Island, they are actually busing in daily employees to work at the grocery stores, to work at the pharmacies, in that area because there are no people out on the island. Long Island, again, tends to be a little bit more wealthy, but even in other suburbs, they're having this difficulty of trying to bus people in. People are not going to take a bus from Albany to work at Grace Note or at C.R. Bard on a regular basis. So one of the attentions that we need to be looking at, Town of Queensbury is doing a study on affordable workforce housing. The City of Glens Falls, we have an issue, she left. Supervisor Hogan in Johnsburg has a issue with their nursing home there because they're having a difficult time keeping employees because they want to live there, but they can't. So what we're looking at is talking with the State of New York, the Housing Community Renewal, and other yes?
Yeah. They can't live there because it's why?
Can't live there because there is either lack of housing or the cost is too expensive. And so this is becoming an issue. In order to attract more workers in the area and to keep our workers in this area, we need to be looking at, in a greater scale, affordable workforce housing in our communities.
And wages come in there.
And wages come in too. Yes.
Exactly. So basically, we're not offering a living wage. Correct.
In many cases, we are not. That is true. Many areas are not. I mean, Warren County is not alone on it. That is true. So this is a major issue that we have to be addressing, and it just can't be done by Warren County. It just can't be done by the board. It can't be done just by EDC. So we are looking and working with the community colleges. We are working with the Department of Labor. From a workforce point of view, we're working with Housing Community Renewal, from an affordable workforce housing, and obviously working with the private sector. And the private sector is beginning to realize that they are analyzing they're going to have to make some adjustments in their wages. So it's really a combination of different things in order for us to keep growing in our area. So that is
not just our area.
No, this is not. I'm not singling out Warren County, but we deal with here in Warren County, so we should be aware of it. But Washington County has similar, parts of northern Saratoga County and some other western areas of the county. Not, even in Saratoga, they're going to have some issues with the keeping the jobs with the low unemployment rate. From that purpose.
One other question
Yep.
about the unemployment rate. There's a number that says basically it's full employment. What's the unemployment rate that the economists say that's basically full employment? Is it like 4%?
It's 3 to 4. It depends on the experts. 3 to 4% is the area. Now, people in the urban areas will argue that there are people that have been out of the system. So therefore, that is not a true picture, and we recognize that in urban areas such as Philadelphia, some portions of New York City, in New Jersey, and so forth, there is a high unemployment among Afro-Americans and other minorities, among young individuals as well. So, but in our particular area here, we're pretty well at full, at full employment. That will change a little bit when the tourism season ends, although efforts are underway to make this more of a year-round Lake George, and the county is attempting to do that. Gore Mountain, with their expansion, is hiring some more people there, but it's still, we need to be addressing and attacking these things on all three fronts. So that's one of our major areas, and I just wanted to bring that to the attention that will be one of our items that we really have to work at.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, before I lose my thought, there are a number of people in our county that are on public assistance. I suspect from some of the stories that I've heard that because of this living wage, there's no incentive for them to get a job because of the fact that they may have to pay for transportation, they may have to pay for childcare, they may have to pay for all these different other things. And I'm wondering if we may be able to do some kind of partnership with social services to find some incentives to help some of these people that are able. Not everyone's able, but those that are able and willing to find some way to help maybe modify the system a little bit.
think we have to
Yeah, I'm
look,
not sure
yes.
that that's really something Ed can do, or whether it's something we need to
Well, I think
look
it's
at.
outreach collectively, this has to be done on a team effort, collaborative effort by all agencies, including not only just Warren County Social Services, but trying to get a kind of a forum together that brings in, we did that through the Adirondack Gateway Council, of bringing in the multiple social service people to discuss their issues, as well. And again, you have a portion of your people on disability, Social Security disability that are going to have limited work and so forth, but they're obviously the way. One of the areas, in many areas, you see a lot of advertisement, hire a vet. In this particular area, we have a very low unemployment among the veterans. Veterans, if you talk to industry and business in the area, generally the veteran is the first that is hired into work. And talking to some of our major industries or smaller ones, they are hired to work. Now, if a vet has had some severe injuries and disability, that's another case. The state of New York has come in and has offered some incentives for a service-disabled vet. Encouraging them to get into businesses. If it's not a mandate yet, but under state grants over $100,000, you are required up to utilize 4% of the state grant to try to assist with a service-disabled vet, as an example, along with the requirements of your women minority, percentages as well. So it's something that we do need to, address. Coming forth. So any thoughts or suggestions from the board? And I thought to take not time from a regular meeting, that we perhaps early next year have a separate meeting and discuss this issue and invite all of the supervisors and some other agencies in, as well as we have been communicating one-on-one with the business sector at this point. And I've asked them if they're willing to join, and they are in the process of providing me some names of contacts to be able to sit down, because it's really it's a joint effort by all parties, including our state partners. The Department of Labor is excellent when there is a layoff. What they're now realizing, there has to be that still kind of rapid response to hire people, which is a positive thing. Instead of layoffs, this is a positive thing in order for that to happen. And Department of Labor has been very helpful in working with some of the job fairs, but that's just not the answer, job fairs, because we have such a low unemployment. We have to look seriously at workforce affordable housing in our area. And the wages has to be done through the business community doing their own analysis. That's their private decision to make, but the cost, anything over 30% combination to put toward housing, 30% of your income, if you're paying more than 30% of your income toward housing, that triggers kind of whistles and bells as far as the living wage and affordability of housing in our area. So.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ed. Any further questions? Committee members, weigh in. You're Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Yeah, I just had
All of us.
just a quick question. And,
Yep.
well, first of all, given some of the comments that have been made, coming back with less of the cash request for Warren County, I thank you for taking a look at that. Thank you, the board, for taking a look at that. I think our cash requirement is a good thing. Normally, when they have a fund balance, you go to spend it. They're looking for spending it, not on a recurring basis, but on a one-time. So I think your application for, a purchase of property, other than there's some minor carrying costs, is a good use of that fund balance, because it's not a recurring expense. Follow what I'm saying. Now, in terms of the revenue reduction, I just want to be clear in my mind that that's being offset by a modest application of fund balance to your operating?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So what you're saying then is that you feel that you can sustain this for some period of time. Normally, for example, I can only liken it, I can't speak for an LDC, but for a municipality, normally you appropriate fund balance, you'd like to know that it's sustainable for a period of time. Otherwise, you just put the fund balance. That's not a good thing either.
Well,
You feel
take one and pass it
it's
down.
for a while. I would say forever, but
So it's incumbent on us to find other sources of revenue.
I see. So you might be able to, they might be offset, for example, by private contributions. It would be offset by interest on sale of land, I suppose, or some other sales and other assets. I just want to understand your strategy.
The strategy is a combination of multiple sources, but when questions are raised, that we take a serious look at those issues and questions and try to reasonably respond to those issues. We think this is an excellent budget going forward. Some of those cash reserves were built up because, like the website, again, we were waiting to do this 4 years out rather than you will be intensive.
What do you want?
Some marketing efforts at the EDC level for property and for other reasons. Utilize your assistance of the Pathway Quarter as a study. We are looking to assist some communities that are interested in this affordable workforce housing this coming year as we feel that part of our responsibility is to make some better revenues as well. We're dependent on
Thank you very much. You did have a comment, Supervisor Beatty?
Comment. Thank you for Ed and for looking at your budget, decreasing it by $100,000, the Warren County commitment. I know Mr. Whitehead was also very instrumental in looking at where the county could save and so forth. And so to you, Mr. Whitehead, and Jennifer, and everyone, I appreciate the effort. And $100,000 to Mr. Thomas in the budget is much appreciated.
Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just wanted to let the board be aware of, I attended 2 EDC events this week, or I think it's this week, but the opening of the seasoned restaurant in Glens Falls, that played a major role in that EDC, and I think that's an amazing place, and if you haven't had a chance to get there, you should see it. And secondly, I happened to, because I live close, drop by a event in Queensbury last night, looking at a traffic study for the Route 9 corridor in Queensbury from below the Great Escape to 149 and beyond. And those are both valiant and valuable efforts that we need to be looking at, and I think we should recognize that in the EDC for taking part in that. So thank you.
Warren County also contributed money for that study as well in National Grid, but it's a study, and I know that we had very good attendance from the Queensbury contingent on the town board, and on the Supervisor Brad was there as well. Supervisor Stroh was there, and I think all the members of the Queensbury town board were at the meeting at one point or another during the meeting, and so forth. As we all know, the outlet is those outlets are very vital to the sales tax and to Mr. Thomas over there each year, and we have to do more. Just as the Pyramid More, I think, is making a major effort in attempting to do some upgrades as well as to undertake some significant changes in their approach, and I think some positive things are coming out of the Aviation Mall shortly up there.
Great, thank you very much. Wayne, we're finally going to get to you, okay? Take your time. There is no pressure. We're going to modify the agenda as we move along here.
Now, this should be a fairly straightforward process. I sent an agenda out earlier. I did hand out one additional item to that. We'll go over that. First, there are some committee actions that I am requesting for consideration, and that is you'll see later in the budget package there's a request to upgrade the GIS coordinator position to full-time. I've had discussions with the budget officer and with the county administrator, and we would just like to initiate that process earlier due to, we had some retirement in the office, and the staff time, we're running a little short. So we have money in our budget, and I'd like to ask the committee's consideration to create a full-time position of GIS coordinator at a $74,000 a year salary, and to then remove or necessarily defund the position of GIS coordinator part-time. So, ask the committee's consideration of that.
Can I get a motion to that effect? Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Leggett. Any discussion? Mr. Wild, yes?
Chairman, thank you. Wayne, what does a GIS coordinator do?
She's right here.
Well, she does the recreation mapper.
She maintains the tax record parcels, the cadastral information for both the 911 system and for the real property office. Also does a lot of analysis work for us for our various programs. And whatever else we can put her way. Talented individual, has been with us on and off for almost 20 years now. And any other highlights that I should say, Sarah? Okay.
Great. Supervisor Leggett.
So was 32 to 40, part-time, that was still, is there health insurance and other benefits that goes along now with the full-time?
Actually, her husband Aaron carries the insurance, so there's no impact on the .8s from that perspective.
Supervisor Hogan.
Did he ask you if you wanted it? Debatable.
Tracy.
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, the Warren County Spatial Data Bureau program, GIS program, is an incredible tool that's utilized by municipalities, minors and municipalities, code enforcement people, and it's utilized by the real estate community, it's utilized by anyone. I was on, in fact, last night I was needing some information, I went on it. It is a tremendous tool for this county and really all of the business community in this county, because I know people that run that program all the time. If you haven't been on it, you can pull up any municipality, you zoom down, you pick up every tax parcel, you can identify the parcels, what's the assessed value, who owns it, etc., and you can lay wetlands information, flood information. I mean, there's a whole host of information on there. It's just an incredible thing. And you are to be commended not only for creating it, but sustaining it as you have. The other item is kudos to us. And the other thing is, if you haven't been on the site yet to look at the trail program, the recreation trail program, it is incredible. And it is being incorporated into a whole host of other programs, both public and private, to communicate to everyone the tremendous assets that we have here in the county, throughout the county. And it is just an incredible thing to see. When that program is, I know I'm taking a little time here, Mr. Chairman, but when that program is linked up with our own municipal programs and private programs that are out there, for example, with the Lake George Land Conservancy, and all of those kinds of things, it's just a tremendous communication tool. Just to give you some idea, just on one trail alone in Bolton Landing, Simcoe, there are literally thousands of people. We have a sign to go up, right? We have thousands of people each year that come on that from all over and outside the state, and also come on these shoulder seasons as well, next to the summer. And so that type of tool is just going to, I think, have tremendous applications. And again, you're now commended for the development of that, and the delivery of that. I believe it was pretty much on time. I hope I heard it right. So, and I can go on at length. So, while I don't normally support increased expenditures, I think in this case we're getting a lot for our money. And I think that would be
Supervisor Beatty. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I support this position too, but I'm wondering where we where did you get the 74? Should it be 80, should it be 60? I mean, I'm just wondering how you come up with salary recommendations.
It was a number I kind of just pulled out of the air, simply given the salary structure of the other individuals in the department and where that level of responsibility falls. As I said at our budget review team meeting, I really thought it should be in the 76 to 78 range, but I'm also trying to be realistic with the budget numbers.
Did you check with other counties at GIS positions relative to?
No, I did not. I discussed it with Sarah. It's a little bit less per hour than she's getting now if you were to prorate it out. It's a number we kind of came up with. Again, both of us would like to see it a little higher, but I was just trying to be cognizant of the budget process. I would be more than happy to see it bumped, to the 76 to 78 range. We have the money in our budget to do that. It would, though, require an adjustment to the budget package for 2019.
So, you didn't check with personnel or anything on comparable and do any?
We did check with personnel, but, there was, I don't know that they did any comparison. They just kind of agreed with the number.
I was just curious, what data did you use to come up with?
I took her existing hourly rate and kind of projected it forward, and yes, we took a little bit off of it, but if we were to project forward, she would actually be in the 78 to 79 range if you took the current hourly. But there's some additional benefit time that comes with that, so I was trying to be budget friendly. If the committee wants to go to 76, 78, I will be more than happy to do that.
I'm just wondering where you came up with the data, that's all. So the number, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, just a quick one, Wayne. Now she's going to be full-time. What great things is she going to do for us next year?
There is a companion to the recreation mapper that we really want to do, and we have some grant funding to help offset that, and that's basically to mirror the recreation mapper with cultural resources. Historical markers, historical districts, not-for-profit, like Tannery Pond Community Center, those cultural, or places for cultural events, to do the same type of thing with as a recreation mapper. Also on the recreation mapper, what we want to do is take and add one more tab that's called events, and those would be signature events that happen the same time every year, because we don't want to go in and list everybody's events. There's other websites for that, but like the Whitewater Race in North Creek, first weekend of May every year, that becomes a signature, and to list those types of things, the garage sale, I don't know if that's in the recreational event, but that could be a cultural one. You get a lot of exercise walking, so maybe it is recreational.
Hotels in Lake George love it.
Yeah. So that's what the next step is, to kind of look at try to find something in each community that is held every year at the same time that's recreation based, that we can highlight as part of that. With some winter activities and summer activities. So.
Great. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Next item, Wayne.
Just for my clarification, we're leaving it at the 74?
Yes.
Okay. So, the next two resolution request forms in your packet are, one is to to populate the full-time salary position in the 8022 budget for the remainder of the year for the GIS coordinator full-time. That's the first one, and I'll just go into the second one. The second transfer request is also our programs in the department, to a large extent, are underwritten by grant programs. So there's matching funds that are required. So at the request of the Treasurer's Office, this is the first one where we're transferring funds from 8021 into the capital fund to equate to the county's match in the grant. So we're going to put this through, and we've gone over this with Rob Lynch, and We think this is how it's all supposed to work, and we'll test the process, and then if everything goes through smoothly, next month we'll do a whole host of transfers that will do all the matching funds for all our grant programs. So those are the two request forms in front of you.
We have a motion on the floor for Supervisor Strauss, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
What I handed out separate from the packet is another resolution request form, a miscellaneous form. Under two of the programs that we have, two grant awards, there is a requirement for public hearings, and the form number 20 identifies that we need a public hearing in November for the sewer line installation for Countryside for that grant, and we are required to have two public hearings per grant. This will be the second one for that grant that's supposed to be undertaken during the actual construction process. Anyway, and the board must hold those. In the past, the department's been able to hold those, but the grantor agency has specifically said that it has to be the full board to hold that public hearing. The second public hearing in December, the county was awarded funding to undertake a analysis of the needs of the actual structure at Countryside, and that is the first of those public hearings. That's a requirement under the Community Development Block Grant Program. So,
any discussion?
Who's the agency with the wastewater?
Community Development Block Grant Program, Housing Community Renewal.
I'll move. Those two.
I don't think there's anything to move, is there? Or is it?
It's just a discussion.
Yes.
There's a resolution.
We do.
Authorize
We do need a
required.
motion. Go ahead. We need.
It was
Can we get a motion? Supervisor Leggett has given us.
Purpose of request, authorize required public hearings, resolution to authorize.
Second by Supervisor Hogan. All those in favor? Discussion? Aye.
All right. At this time, Mr. Chairman, I can briefly go through the budget package. It's pretty simple, but want to go through that?
You can
Okay.
quickly do it. Would be great, Wayne.
The department is responsible for three separate budgets, the 8021, 8022, and 8029. 8021 is basically our general operating, the planning department per se. If you look at the materials, the budget is up, somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,500, and that really relates to the .8 codes. Our .4s are pretty flat line for the past 4 or 5 years, so there's not really much of an increase there. I think in the budget it's $88 increase in the .4s. So that, unless anybody has any question, I'll continue.
Wayne.
You have the salary schedule as well. You're listing open positions. Are any of those open positions expected to be filled?
Well, I was going to pipe up when Ed was talking, but we've had problem filling those positions. We've had people consider it and decide to go to Connecticut where they pay more. But Sarah is working on that right now with personnel to kind of restructure some of the discussion on that. We did just get a new list for the part-time office specialist, and Sarah has sent out an email to some of those individuals to see if there's an interest. The problem with that is that it's part-time. So there may be an opportunity to look at a different classification for that if the need arises. The planner position is, we thought we had a good candidate, but again, he went to Connecticut. One of the issues is that most of the people that come out of the planning curriculums really want to work at a town level to get into the nuts and bolts of it versus at the broader county level, especially in New York State. Which really doesn't have a county level planning requirement as far as producing a county master plan. which, by the way, the Warren County Master Plan was last done in 1977, but it's a little outdated. And I think what the population projections in that,
We should have 122,000 residents by 2020.
yeah, so I think some of that old...
We're at 65 now.
Yeah, some of that information is a little skeptical. So,
Supervisor Leggett, did you have something?
And that's all part of the transition planning, what we're looking at.
correct.
Right? So if that doesn't happen soon,
Then you might be stuck with me longer.
hey, I will say that the 1970 master plan for the town of Chester is spot on for population.
Okay.
Supervisor Beatty.
I remember the master plan, I was on the school board for the Gooseberry School District. We were supposed to have, I believe this year was 4,300 students, and I think over 3,000.
Yeah.
So, obviously, master plans are fine at that time, but there's a lot of assumptions that are put into the master plan.
Basically, when you do population projections, the standard methodology, and I won't bore you with this, it's called a cohort projection, and it's based on historical input, output, family sizes. Well, family sizes have really decreased, and the outmigration of educated youth in the North Country has really, again, reduced what should have been in the population projections. If you go back to 1920 and start projecting every 10-year cohort, yeah, we should, that's what the population should have been if those historical rates had been maintained, along with the perceived birth rates and mortality rates. So the 80, again, the 80-21 budget, there is a little bit less in revenue, and really that goes into the methodology for determining salary rates. We used to have a component in there to account for benefit time, and the change in the system with the county does not allow for that. So basically our billable rate has, for each individual was reduced, and that will impact our revenues. The 80-22 budget, which is GIS, again, this will be modified as part of the whole budget package because the salary will change. But the .4s, we have some contract issues in that, and Sarah, I don't know, you want to talk to some of the .4 issues, the contracts, what we're hoping to do?
So the big jump in, big difference between what has historically been 2017, 16, and 19, and this current year is our aerial photography. That was flown in the spring of this year. That's via a state program, and Warren County voted a couple years to contribute to improve the quality of that imagery. So that was thankfully flown successfully this spring. It's always tricky with weather and snow cover, and we should be getting delivery of that new aerial photography next month, which will be great. So we'll be adding that into the community map. But then for next year, going back down to kind of what it's historically been, the main request for that is some funding for, Supervisor Wild was asking what I would be doing with the additional hours. One big project that we're hoping to undertake in 2019 is moving the DPW towards utilizing GIS. Historically, they have not used GIS technology, and the previous county engineer was not especially enthusiastic or interested in GIS, but our current engineer and the deputy engineer, or whatever his title is, Ed Downey, very both enthusiastic about GIS, and I think both coming from the private sector, they're both very familiar with its utility and what it will do to improve their efficiency in their day-to-day operations. So we're planning to work with them to undertake a move to getting all of their infrastructure data cataloged and maintained in GIS. So some of that money, most of that will all be done in-house, but we do have a small request there for consulting services to help with a small portion of expertise that we need in managing pavement scores and traffic counts. So that's a little out of the ordinary, and we need some outside expertise in that particular area.
John?
Sarah, the town just moved to putting its infrastructure, highway department, culverts, etc.,
Yep.
and identified them in a GIS way, but it also comes with a management program. When was this particular culvert installed? When was it last inspected? What kind of maintenance program does it call for? Because in the past it's been by guess and by golly, and after a storm event it failed, and well, maybe we could have foreseen that and been proactive and remedied that. So is that also the county's direction?
Yeah, so there are a large number of third-party software solutions, which I'm guessing Queensbury purchased one of those. They're fairly expensive, and they have a fairly substantial annual maintenance cost. So it's definitely an option if we want to spend $10,000 on, if we'd rather spend $40,000 purchasing sort of an out-of-the-box solution. It's also an option. We were trying to, because we do have the expertise to do this in-house, we were trying to, keep the budget number lower and develop a similar, it will accomplish the same things. It will also be, an online tool that the engineers and staff in DPW can use in their phones, that will project out maintenance and allow them to update it from their phones. But we feel that we have the expertise to develop that solution in-house for the most part, with the exception of the pavement management system, which is more complicated. So.
Supervisor Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, sir. Are we using the same software as Queensbury
Yep.
using?
Mm-hmm.
So can we do some shared services, coordinated purchasing, to say, can we just leverage what Queensbury's already paid for and, add another user, whatever they do from a software standpoint, and say, all right, we can save some money and both use the same software, not the same hardware, but the same software?
Yeah, George and I talk on a weekly basis, so we're both pretty aware of what is going on in each other's worlds. Unfortunately, it's unlikely that the software licensing would allow, it would essentially, we would be paying whatever the cost that Queensbury is paying. But I can definitely talk with him about it and see. I'm not sure what system Queensbury is using, but...
Yeah, because the software company obviously makes, we'd rather have one with Queensbury, one with Warren County, one with Chester, one with, they'll cut their total revenue if they start
Right.
allowing users
Yeah.
to tap in with John and stuff, so.
Yeah, they're usually pretty strict about
Yeah.
that, but I'll definitely check with George.
Right. Supervisor Simpson?
This is a great direction that the county's going in, but one of the issues when you get out of Queensbury and Lake George is cell coverage.
Yep.
And that is critical for a lot of these more efficient ways of doing this. And then we're bumping into this all over.
Yeah, so we're super cognizant of that, and like you said, many of the solutions that work in Queensbury definitely don't work in the rest of the county. So our response mapper, which you may remember I presented a year or so ago, was developed specifically with the intention of that working in a disconnected environment with no cell coverage. For instance, Queensbury, the way they GPS, they're both their water department and George Hilton, when they're GPSing infrastructure, trails, or whatever, the methodology that they use requires cell connectivity. That doesn't work for us in the vast majority of the rest of the county. So we definitely have different considerations when we're implementing solutions, and we always take into account that we don't have cell coverage.
I say that because we need to all push for it.
Yeah, I agree.
So that we can take advantage of this.
Yeah.
Before we adjourn, maybe just a quick little summary. I think Ed's report, I think we're seeing some streamlining, some modification. Travis, thank you. I think you're a major component of getting us there, and so we certainly appreciate that. The issue that Mike brought up of and Ed brought up relative to wages in our area, very difficult issue. At the end of the day, employers have just got to, if you want more employees, you got to bite the bullet and pay more per hour. Travis?
Thank you. I wanted to comment on that thing you talked about employment. I wish I was able to do that while Ed was still in the room. He was some very good points. We actually lost 3 people, total full-time people, total salaries over $250,000 a year that you are paying, and they're not here anymore to hear this. But what he said was very true about our challenges with employment, and and also the fact that it is coupled with tourism. And tourism is a 12-month deal here. So what I would like to see is to have some suggestions as to what we could do to help improve this. And tourism is extremely good for taxes from our standpoint, but it does cause us these challenges with uneven employment. So as EDC, IDA, etc., looks at these opportunities to attract more business, if you could look at businesses that draw in the wintertime, in the shoulders, that would be so much better for everybody. Or if you could concentrate on those 12-month jobs, the kinds of industrial jobs that are actually being challenged. As you pointed out, the fact that you can't find any employees here in the summer is not only a problem for someone like Mr. Merlino, despite the frustration that he has about trying to find somebody in the summer, but it can't be nice for these manufacturing people either. So, if we could go ahead and concentrate on trying to even out that employment with the kinds of assistance that we're offering, I think that would be very good. And if, Mr. Chairman, I could just take a couple minutes to go over what you said on the budget situation there. I was very happy to see the reduction of $99,000, and that should be sustainable for a period of time. One thing I would like to note, at the time was being discussed, but the fact that they're going to take some money out of cash, purchase some land from you guys, under an option that you granted them. They did this once before, and they ended up, what happens is you're going to sell them land at a very low price, less than $2,000 an acre, and because that's the agreement we have. And what's going to happen is that's now going to become an asset. That asset is going to be appraised at its going rate, which is over 10 times that. So you will actually see that cash turn into an asset that's far bigger. And, but maybe not, it won't be cash in equivalents, but it's going to be now in land. They actually did this several years ago when they bought lot. We needed to go ahead and put in the infrastructure over at the Queensbury Industrial Park. And they said, well, we're going to have the county pay for part of that sewer upgrade and stuff like that. We're going to ourselves, the EDC, contribute. And what happened was they bought some land from you guys in Warren County. They then sold that land. They bought it for a very low price. They then sold it at the appraised value to HRLDC at an inflated price, and ended up with a paper gain of all the money they needed to pull off their share of the infrastructure. So this is the kind of stuff that's been going on again. And I'd also like to point out that while they're keen to go ahead and buy those remaining lots, I would ask you to consider what they've done with the lots that they've already purchased, and that is nothing. I mean, there's only one tenant in that Queensbury Industrial Park, which is the National Guard, and they've been trying to sell lots for 10 years there, and they actually tried to give one away 5 years ago, and they were unable to do it. So before I went ahead and granted them additional lots, I would say, show me that you can do something with them. So that's my only suggestion.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Travis. I guess my observation would be, I think I would try to memorialize those comments, put put them in writing, and let's see if we can't, in the future, get some discussion on that, okay? So, that young lady in the back there, you've had your hand up for a while, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we...
Yes, I am Carol McLean Wright. I am one of the owners of the Stony Creek Ranch Resort, and we just wanted to pay a courtesy to the Economic Development Council to let you know that we are working on a project to address exactly what you just brought up, and that is development of a 365 economy, and we would like to start up at the Stony Creek Ranch. And we are talking now with the Transportation Commission about getting a permit for a 45-day window to run the Polar Express train. This will create minimum 75 more jobs, bring in $196,000 in salaries. We are prepared to provide Wrangler quarters in case these are people who just want to have a part-time job. We're also looking at our college students. We have gone ahead and contacted the FRA, the Federal Railroad Agency. We have been appointed and received our certificate for the Stony Creek and Hudson Railway. We have now identified rolling stock. This is totally unrelated to IPH. We were stung as bad as everyone else by that encounter. We have no association with IPH at all. We have no intention of having any identification with Iowa Pacific. And to give you one example on that, my own secretary, a single mother of 3 children, played part of the telephone train last year. We did that kind of off-center train Christmas Town thing. Her check for $80, which was supposed to come just about Christmas, was bounced, and it was not rectified for about 8 weeks after that. So we went ahead, of course, immediately fronted the money to the head of the branch rather than through the train. But we're looking at and hoping for permission to operate on the rails. We plan on opening a vendor area so that local businesses can come on up and sell their plaques, their carvings, their jewelry, their pictures, etc. It should bring more tourism into the area. We certainly have an issue with heating our rooms. You know these are not the newest rooms on the block here, and so it should spill over to houses and bodies and beds in our local hotel industry. We want to make this a 365 destination. This is a pilot program. We are examining other pilot programs, assuming that at some point we can have more access to the rails. But right now we're talking to the Transportation Board this afternoon about getting this 45-day permit and operating simply to Merrimack and just to Stony Creek and back. And the nice part is one of the set design that, as you know, has been taken down. My son, who's big in showbiz, has the set designer for Guardian of the Galaxies. That movie was just shelved because of impropriety on behalf of the director, and so their set designer for Guardian of the Galaxies, a buddy of my son, said, "Boy, if you put me up for a week, I'll go down and do your sets. We're going to have Guardian of the Galaxy sets. I hope there's no saber lights and that kind of thing coming on." But this is something we would like to do every year as a winter event to bring life to this area. And we just want to make this a courtesy call to let you know we're working on that, and we're going to work something out as far as next.
Good, thank you very much, man, we appreciate the comments. Okay, Craig, did you have something?
Good luck with that. 8029, did you finish your budget
No, I did not.
presentation?
8029 is funding that we request from the county on a yearly basis for the First Wilderness Program, and it offsets some of our local match requirements, or if we have a cost overrun in a one of the projects that we're working on, that helps offset that. And so what we generally do is every year we'll transfer that into our most current capital fund as a reserve. So that's, we're requesting that continue again.
So some of this does come back when projects are finished out?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
There's
More?
two quick things I want to point out in the agenda is the tiny URL for the recreation mapper, in case you all need a refresher on that. I've also attached the Housing Community Renewal has released their NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability for Housing Programs. And I am just giving that out to the towns as far as information purposes. At the county level, we're not in a position to do an application. We don't have the staff capacity anymore to administer a program, nor do we have the background information. So,
Thank you.
The towns may be interested in pursuing something on their own.
It's easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Supervisor Beatty, did you,
We need to approve this budget.
no? Okay, any more comments? Go ahead, yes.
Just, as mentioned at the last meeting, just, if you could just touch base with tourism and the incorporation of that mapping program.
It's already done.
It's already done.
It's
Okay.
on their page, and they're fully aware of it.
It's on the page. Good.
Duane loves it, so.
Very good.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Along the same lines, Google search, Warren County Recreation Mapper, works.
Good.
Good.
I just wanted to say to Supervisor Stroud and Supervisor Wild, based on your comments when I presented this the last
Yes.
time, and your request to implement GPS functionality, so your location will show up on the map when you're out hiking. So we've done that. It works on Android phones. Apple iPhones have very strict security requirements, and there are some issues with linked content both on the Town of Queensbury website and the Lake George Land Conservancy website. Both of those websites need to make some updates to security. So I've already spoken with George in Queensbury, who's pursuing that, and Sarah at Lake George Land Conservancy, who's pursuing that on her end. When those two fixes are made by you and by Lake George Land Conservancy, then the GPS will also work on the iPhone. So.
Great. Any further comments? Thankfully, none. So, can I get a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Hogan, second by Supervisor Stroud. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
See you.